Hello, this is Plant Notes, Plant Tissues. So let's get started. All right, so here we have parts of a plant. And I know that we don't think of plants as having body systems the same way that you and I have body systems or other animals have body systems, but they do have systems. They have the shoot system, which is everything that is above ground, and they have the root system, which is everything below the ground, right? And so if they have systems, then they have organs in those systems. And so if we're looking, we have flowers, which are reproductive. We have leaves for making food for the plant. We have a fruit for protecting the seeds, so also part of the reproductive system. It's the distribution system. And the stem, which supports the plant and has to transport water and nutrients. And then in the root system, you have the roots. So write all that down. Remember that you can pause to write the things down and then you can continue on. Or you can write the notes first and then listen along to me as you have to watch this video. So plant tissues, if they have cells, they have organs, and they have organ systems, then they have tissues, because tissues are grouped together into organs. And so whether it is a leaf, a stem, or a root, there are different types of plant tissue that make up all three of them. And so first we have dermal tissue. Just like you have a dermis and an epidermis, the plant has dermal tissue, so it has an epidermis. And its job is to cover and protect the plant. The prefix epi means above, over, and upon. And so it's the outside layer of the plant. And so for the leaf, it's the top and the bottom layers of cells. So it serves a function similar to our skin. It's protective, and it's helping to prevent water loss. You can see that whenever you're looking at, where this will work. Maybe not. I give up. I was trying to do like a, whoop, don't do that. I thought I could do like a laser pointer, but it's not letting me. So anyway, if you look at the epidermis and you look at the cells of the epidermis, they're very close together. They try to keep water from escaping until they want it to leave the plant. Remember that water is going to escape through the stoma or the stomata, the pores in the underside of the leaf. When they open up for gas exchange, water is going to leave, and that's actually what pulls the water up the plant. Is as it's transpiring out of the plant at the top, it pulls that water along, and some of it is escaping. In addition to the epidermis, they have a cuticle, which is a waxy covering on some leaves that helps prevent water loss even more. Okay, so we had dermal tissue, and now we have vascular tissue. You have vascular tissue. We're talking about vessels. Okay, so vascular plants have hollow tube-like cells. They're called tracheids, and they're made up of thicker cell walls. And the cell walls are fortified with lignin that make up xylem. What you need to know is that xylem's job is to transport water. It's non-living, so what that means is it's just these empty cells that water can flow through. It transports water and minerals that the plant absorbs from the roots and gets them up to the leaves and other parts of the plant. In plants that have woody stems, then it is what makes up the wood of those stems, like a tree trunk. Okay, water moves one way, up the xylem and out through the leaves. And we said just on the previous slide that this is transpiration. When the stoma are open or stomata are open, the water leaves and it pulls the water up the chain, right? How is a tree like Spider-Man? They both defy gravity because water is going up the plant. Okay, another type of vascular tissue is phloem, and this transports sugar in both directions. It's made in the leaves through photosynthesis, but it's going up or down because it's providing the glucose needed to go to the mitochondria to get ATP. Okay, movement of the phloem, they call it translocation. It's moving from one place to another. And then you have different types of cells. You have sieve tube elements. You can see the picture, it's like the reddish orangey one. And they have companion cells that help keep this portion of the plant alive. Okay, ground tissue. We're going to talk about them really quickly. Maybe. Maybe not. Okay. Ground tissue are pretty much everything else. We have parenchyma cells, collenchyma cells, and sclerenchyma cells. I don't think, maybe. No, I don't think you need to define those, but I would write the 3 types of cells down just in case you see them again. So everything that's not dermal tissue or the other types of tissue that we're talking about is made up of these ground cells or ground tissue. And so they have different things for doing different functions. Okay, this is just like a pretty little diagram of everything that helps you remember. You need to know the difference between xylem and phloem for sure. You do not need to know the difference between the types of ground tissue. You do need to know what stomata are, and you do need to understand that the epidermis is dermal tissue, and it's like the skin for us. Okay, meristematic tissue. A meristem is where growth happens in a plant. And so it's a region of rapidly dividing cells. When we did mitosis and we looked at those cells under the microscope, we were looking at root cells or root hairs of an onion because they're going to be rapidly dividing to reach water. Your apical meristems are the ones on the ends of the roots and the shoots. The shoots is the top green part of the plant. Lateral meristems make it grow bigger and wider around. It's on the outer edges of the stems and roots. Function, growth, it's primary growth, which is up, secondary growth, which is out. Okay, we're going to stop this video here. Okay, we talked about systems, we talked about tissues, and now we're talking about plant organs a little bit more specifically. Look, there's a lot of vocabulary here. It doesn't seem like a lot, but you should be studying your flashcards and you should be studying your notes every day. Okay, roots. Their function is to absorb water and minerals and to anchor the plant in place. You have 2 different types of root. You have a fibrous root, which are shallow and branching, and then you have a taproot, which goes deep into the ground to reach water. Okay, like a carrot is a taproot that we eat. It's one deep root that goes further into the ground to reach water. The fibrous roots, they spread out, right? So that they can get all of the water in a shallow area. Okay, so if we look at these root hairs, we're trying to determine what the function is of them. So what is the function of a root? Water absorption. We can see through this Casparian strip on this picture that water is going into these cells that make up the root. And so if we have root hairs, they give us what? They give us increased surface area. That increased surface area helps the roots to absorb even more water. All right, stems. Stems are support structures. They hold leaves up so that they can get sunlight, and they hold flowers up so that they can attract pollinators. So a structure of a stem, it has dermal tissue, so an epidermis outside, just like the leaves do. And then they have bundles of vascular tissue because they've got to get water and they've got to get sugar where it needs to go in the plant. So they have xylem and phloem. Now, you can have different plants that have special modifications, like potatoes and cacti. So potatoes are actually a modified stem that grows underground. So they're storing starch. They're storing large stores of carbohydrates for energy sources. And then cacti, we know, stores water in its stem and also does photosynthesis in its stem, and it doesn't have leaves, it has spines, but it still produces flowers for reproduction. And here's all of those pictures of all the tissues. That ground tissue fills everything else in. Then you have your vascular bundles, and then you have your epidermis. And so the vascular bundle is going to have some xylem and some phloem to transport water and to transport food. All right, leaves. we know that they do photosynthesis. They have an epidermis, like we saw, an outer layer on the top and the bottom of the leaf. They have stomata, holes or pores on the underside of the leaf mostly, and they have these guard cells. When the guard cells fill up with water, they kind of inflate, and you can see that bottom left picture, they open when they're inflated. So if you have watered your plant well, then those are going to be open so that photosynthesis can take place, gas exchange can happen. And if you don't water it, it's going to be the one on the top left. It starts to deflate, and it deflates and it closes that stoma. So gas exchange can't happen, but water also can't evaporate. You have one top layer of a leaf. If you go back and look at the leaf picture, it's called palisade mesophyll. Palisade, let me look it up because it might help you with the definition. It's giving me a car, guys. I didn't know there was a car. Okay, so a palisade is like a fence, usually for defense, right? And so the palisade mesophyll, to me, looks like a fence of green all the way at the top. And of course, it's at the top of the leaf because that's where it gets the most sunlight. That's where the most chloroplasts are. And then right underneath that layer, you have what's called a spongy mesophyll, and it has air spaces in it for gas exchange. Plants also have to have veins, and those veins contain xylem and phloem, the vascular tissue to help transport water and transport the food that it's making throughout the plant. Oh, look, a picture. So you can see that palisade mesophyll layer is like a picket fence or a fenced in green area. So it's all chloroplast pretty much so that it can get the most sunlight possible. Your spongy mesophyll has these air spaces so that carbon dioxide can get in, oxygen can get out. And then you can see your vein that has your vascular bundle, that has your xylem and your phloem. Okay, leaf adaptations. We can probably do this quickly, and then we may stop. Oh, maybe not. We'll just talk about leaf adaptations. These are different leaf adaptations. This little pitcher plant here, we have some of those in the big thicket, the one in the middle. So it catches insects. When the insect falls in, there's digestive juices in there. It can't get out. Most of them are still green like the pitcher plant, so they do photosynthesis for glucose, but they eat for nutrients. So they can't get the nutrients from the soil. The soil doesn't have all the minerals that they need, usually nitrogen, phosphorus, things like that. And so they get those from their insect sources. Pine needles are very, very skinny leaves, so very few stomata because sometimes they have dry seasons and they can't get the water they need and they don't want to lose water. And of course, the spines for the cacti. All right, we'll stop right there. Okay, plant responses. So plants have hormones. Hormones are chemicals. Those chemicals make certain things happen in a plant, just like they make certain things happen in animals and in humans. So we have hormone producing cells that can move through the vascular, not the cells. There are hormone producing cells that produce the chemical, and that chemical can move through the vascular tissue or from cell to cell to get to the target cell. It has a receptor that receives that hormone and does what it says. Okay, so their functions are multiple. They can control growth, development, response. Here's a bunch of them. Auxins. Auxins are the ones you'll probably see referenced the most. If a plant, for example, is always has a light source that's on one side, it will start to grow in that direction. And so what happens is on the opposite side, the auxins will be produced and it will make it grow on one side to help it turn over to go closer to the sunlight. Cytokinins is for lateral growth, growing outward. Gibberellins are for germination, just think G and G. Abscisic acid, I haven't really talked about that one before, but it functions in winter dormancy, so it makes the plant kind of go dormant, not use all of its resources in the winter. Ethylene is one that you may have heard of before because it's what makes fruit ripe. And so if you have ever bought one of those food savers or fruit savers, usually it's something that absorbs ethylene to help slow the ripening process down. Because if one thing is producing ethylene in that space in your little drawer with all your fruit, then all the things will start to ripen faster. Okay, so auxins and cell elongation. It's almost like I knew this was coming or something. So we're not going to write this part down, but auxins, they make things grow up, right? And then cytokinins make them grow out. Right, so gibberellins, they regulate the overall life cycle of a plant. They promote stem growth, germination, flowering, and fruit. Growth, germination, flower, and fruiting. Winter dormancy, so plants, trees, they reduce growth, they drop their leaves in the winter, some of them. You know, I'm not sure what the scissors are there for. Really? Okay, ethylene we talked about already. All right, plant responses. So plants can respond to stimuli. That's one of the characteristics of life, and plants can do that. For example, you can see the two little, the Venus flytrap right there and the mimosa, both of those react to touch, and that's a plant response. They're called tropisms. They're plant growth responses to external stimuli. Phototropism is responding to light. So like I said, when the auxin gets produced to elongate the side of the plant to turn closer towards the sun, that's phototropism. Gravitropism is what it sounds like. It's response to gravity. Roots go down, shoots grow up. Hydrotropism is a response to water, and thigmotropism is a response to touch. So like the Venus flytrap, when an insect lands on it, it closes. The mimosa will actually react to touch too. Vines are reacting to touch. They will grow around and up something. All right, so I think that's it. Have a great day.